Hello, and welcome to Strategic Leadership with Paul Gilbert. Today we're going to talk about branding, which is a great subject that can help any organization increase the value, essentially, of their organization and what they offer to their constituents. But before we dive into that, let's just do the thing we do at the beginning of every episode and talk just for a moment about why we have this channel. So the purpose of strategic leadership is really to help people that are trying to grow their organizations, develop their organizations, because if you are about delivering a product, a service, whatever it is that is going to have a positive impact on the world, it's very important to get the management of your organization down so that you can be the best you can be and deliver that product, service, whatever it may be. And hopefully what you're doing is delivering a good that's going to make the world a better place. And by thinking and studying about leadership and strategy, you can do that more effectively. Great. Now let's talk about branding. So think for a moment about a few symbols. Let me paint a picture for you. Think about the Nike symbol. It is kind of a stylized check mark. And when you see that, it elicits a lot of thoughts and emotions and stuff that is behind the brand. There is the celebration of athletic excellence, the celebration of striving for and achieving goals. All of these things are tied to just a symbol. It's not even a symbol that means anything. It's just this abstract shape. Think about Disney. The stylized outline of Mickey Mouse's head. Again, you think about customer service, and you think about imagination, and you think about all the wonderful things that Disney has brought to the world. Well, when you mention that you want to brand your agency better to any PR firm, one of the first things they do is they say, fantastic, we can help you out. We'll design a new logo. And what I'd like to encourage you to think about is that it's not so much about the logo. Sometimes logos need to be redesigned, and they can be simplified and made to look cleaner. But in reality, the brand is not the logo, the image at all. The brand is what that image means. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Not how to draw a nicer picture to represent your organization, but how do you build meaning behind that image? That's what brand equity is really all about. And brand equity is driven by the stories that people tell about your organization. People are telling stories whether you want them to or don't want them to, and particularly in a modern era where so much information is online, there's so many sites that will grade your facility and the service and everything else. People are telling stories. So let's think a little bit about how to grow your brand equity. And what I'd like you to think about is this idea of brand equity as being as important as your people, as your facilities and programs, is your brand equity, which is how people think about your organization and what you deliver. It's really important. It's completely intangible. While as the people, you can see them, the facilities and programs, you can see those as well. The equity you don't physically see, but it's super important to be able to grow your organization, to be able to deliver your mission in an important way. So let's think about 4 steps that you kind of start at the beginning and move your way up. And usually when you talk about branding, people think about name recognition. Do people know what our organization is? And that is indeed the base level. So at the base level, you want to be known. You can't build the meaning behind your brand unless your brand is is known by others. So you start by getting name recognition and developing that among first a narrow band of folks that are your core stakeholders, users, customers, and then expanding out from there to a more general audience. But that's not enough. You haven't done enough if you're just getting name recognition. You have to start building meaning into that name recognition. So the next level up is where you are beginning to talk about your organization and how it is different and similar to others. You're working on what's called differentiation. And you can't build a solid brand unless you are different from other organizations doing similar things in your area. You absolutely have to be different and better. And so differentiation is very important. It also means that it helps not to be a cookie cutter organization that, regardless of whether you're a government or a nonprofit or business, you don't want to just be doing the same things as all of your competitors. You want to be different and special so that you can start to explain to people how your organization is unique. That starts to build that brand. The next one is that you want that differentiation to begin to let people know that you have very positive things that you're doing in the world, very positive things you're doing in your community. And so they start to associate positive things with the unique elements that you bring to the field that you're in. And this is very important. And this is also driven by stories. So now they view you as unique and positive. They like what you're doing. That's fantastic. There is a peak level, though, which then goes beyond them simply knowing you, understanding how you're different, and understanding that you're doing good. And that one is called resonance. And at that level, it's less about what your organization is doing in some respects and more about how it makes your customer, your user feel. How does it make them feel about them? Do they want to be in a relationship with you and your organization? Many people buy Apple products because they like what it says about them. They don't even consider other technology companies that might build every bit as good a product, and they're not even comparing all of the spec sheet items because they've bought in to this universe that's been created around the Apple brand and the seamless experience among all their products. And at that point, they feel, whether they say it or not, that it is reflecting well on them to have that logo. The same can be said for Nike or any one of the other major athletic brands or other major brands. So how do you make it up the scale from first just being known to a place where people identify with that brand and want to be associated with it? And like I mentioned before, the answer is stories. It's all about stories. Every time there's a newspaper article, a radio story, local TV, or even just a social media post, they are really all stories. Some are longer, some are shorter. They all say something. The other stories that are out there are neighbors talking to neighbors, are coworkers talking to coworkers, are people that are putting a review on a website like a TripAdvisor kind of thing, or Google, or any one of the websites where you can review a facility, a program, whatever. And they're saying something about your organization, your facilities, your products, your services. And in some cases, they're going to be good messages, and in some cases, they're going to be unfortunate messages. We all have misses on customer service. So the important thing to think about with brand is the brand is the compilation of all the stories from all the various voices. So some of the stories your agency is saying, and you should be thinking about those. You should be planning those so that they are coherent. So there are certain themes that are tied into every story that you tell so that you start building that brand equity. Your customers are also telling stories. They're relaying to their friends what their experience was, and that experience was either good or bad. And wouldn't you love it if it was good and they were telling it in a way that tied in with your mission and your goals and the message that you're trying to deliver? That would be a super win. So all of these messages are out there, all these stories are out there. The way that you can start moving your agency up the hierarchy on branding is to be very intentional about what messages you're delivering so that they reinforce themes that you want to be known, and then work really hard to get those messages and stories told again and again. Reach out to those influencers, bring them in, try to get them into product ambassadors, if you will. Get them singing the praise of your organization, your offerings, and the great things you do in the community because they have the big megaphone. Work with the local news media to help them tell the stories that will reinforce the messages that you want your public to know. Work with your own staff so that your staff is helping to relay these branding messages so that you're not just delivering random messages that don't necessarily tie into the coherent whole that you're trying to present. So that hopefully is a little bit of help in thinking about brand equity and why it is so important and some steps you can take to start building it. It all comes down to telling the right stories, telling those stories consistently, reinforcing elements of your mission. If you do that effectively, you will be known more and more for the good work that you're doing. And that will help you get your word out further and farther and achieve the mission that you are out to achieve. I hope this was useful. Again, think about the three pillars of your people, your facilities and programs, and your brand equity. That third one is not a tangible thing that you see, but it's of equal importance to the other three pillars that hold up your agency and help your agency grow, thrive, do great things. So let's all go out there and try to be great brand ambassadors. Think a little bit about what's your mission, what's your origin story, who's telling stories, and how can you get those stories to reinforce these positive two or three elements you want to deliver in your brand message. And if you do that consistently, your brand equity will grow and grow. And when someone wants to create a new logo for you, think about that. Sometimes a new logo is nice, but a logo is not brand equity. Brand equity is the meaning behind the logo. So focus more on that meaning behind the logo and less on what graphical image is in the logo. Thank you so much. I hope this was helpful. If you think it was, please like, subscribe, share, copy the link and send this to a friend. This is important stuff for us all to be thinking about, to grow our organizations, to do good, to make the world a better place. I'm Paul Gilbert. It's been a joy talking to you for a while about branding and brand equity. I hope you have a good day. Thanks.